Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today I'm sharing with you a page of my Use It Up art journal and it's all stamped mark making. I was really excited with how this page came together in the end, and I really had no idea where it was going when I started it. So it's amazing how you can start with something and end up with something you absolutely adore. So you can see this is a page of my Use It Up journal, which is getting quite chunky now. I had some leftover gesso, I had some fuchsia paint in the background sort of scribbled over, and I'm just sort of covering it over. So I'm using this botanical tissue from Tim Holtz, just putting some collage in the background to, you know, make it look a little bit more interesting. I knew that I wanted to do some acrylic paint and stencils on this page because I got a brand new bunch of stencils when I was doing this, so I wanted to try those out and try some different things with those. So I'm going in, starting off with some yellow, and I'm just spreading it out with the brush that I was using for my gel medium in the background. I'm not really precious about it. It sort of helps spread it out a little bit, and you know, I wanted a little bit of a watery effect. So I'm going in and making sure that it's dry, or drier, sorry, because it was a little bit wet. And I'm using a wet wipe, which is what the delay was. I was trying to find my wet wipes to wipe away the paint and to dry it off in between. Now, the drying off in between is really important for this technique because if I put the pink over wet yellow, it's obviously going to blend together. Instead, I want to layer this up. And on the side, I've got my 6x6 journal, which isn't actually a Use It Up journal, but because I was using my Use It Up journal, I wanted to put my paint somewhere else and my stencils and so on as I was cleaning them off. If you want to see how that page turned out, one of the videos that's either been posted or will be posted shortly after this one's being posted, called Seek, it's drawing mandalas. That's what turned out of that background. So the stencils I'm using are from Dina Wakley. They're the new stencils that were released at Creativations, but have only hit the shores of Australia in May. So it's been a bit of a delay with those ones, which has been a bit frustrating. So hence why I was really keen to sort of get into it and have a go. So this one's a beautiful one with the crosses, and for those people who do follow my channel, you know I love a good cross or a plus sign or whatever you think they are, X's, in my my artwork and my mark making. So I was really liking how this is sort of coming together, and the different colours. And I really love that combination. It's sort of the primary bright combination of the blue, or the turquoise, the magenta, and the yellow. You can see that my background is a little bit shiny. The reason for that is the gel medium I'm actually using is a gloss gel medium, which I don't tend to use all that much these days. I tend to use a matte gel medium, but I finished that, so I'm using up my gloss one. And so it's made everything a little bit glossy on the page, which again is a cool technique, or a cool texture in the background. So I'm going in now with my mark making. Now usually I would do this myself, but I've got these new Tim Holtz mark making stamps, which I love, and I figured I might as well have a go. The other thing that I wanted to do this for was because I recently taught a class where we were doing sort of this a similar technique to this and doing mark making, and while most people really enjoyed it, some people said to me, I really struggle doing mark making. I don't like doodling. I don't like the look of my handiwork on it, which there's nothing wrong with that. But we do have all these amazing tools at our disposal, like these stamps, that you can use to help you make those random marks in the background really, really easily. So I'm just using the archival mini inks in the different colours. These are the Tim Holtz range, and just stamping randomly. There was no real thought to it. I was regretting putting that purple. It was a little bit too dark on the page, which is why I started doing this with this sort of leafy stamp over the background. I'm just sort of overlapping it and filling in the gaps and making it look really leafy and so on. Some of the stamping is really good, some of it's a little bit dodgy. I'm not using a block. The reason for that is I usually can never find one, but also because my book's so chunky, trying to use a block on it and trying to get up to those close edges is going to be really, really tricky. So trust yourself. If you press down evenly over the whole surface, you can stamp it out okay. So once I'd finished doing this, I decided I needed a little bit more in the background, a little bit more black. So I'm going in with these little dot stamps. And I really love that shape. And again, for those people who sort of followed this channel, that's the sort of step I would do with my License to Quill, the Jane Davenport pen, when I just dot it across the page. But there's a stamp for that now, so I was using that. So when I was doing this, I thought, yeah, it's okay, but it's a little bit busy, which is a hard thing for me to say because everything I do is a little bit busy. So I decided to go in with my Posca paint pens in green and colour in the leaves. And this really transformed the page because it's a bit like that redactive painting where you block out the background. It suddenly made a really strong foreground and background. It popped the leaves out to the front so you could start to make sense of what was actually happening on the page. The other great thing about it was, particularly in the middle of the spine where that dodgy stamping was, I could stamp over the top of it, draw over the top of it and kind of blend it into the page and fix up anything that didn't quite look right. So I'm just going in and finishing this off. As I was doing it, I was kind of regretting that the black lines were disappearing, that I didn't have that crisp edge. But one of the cool things about the, I keep going to call them acrylics, the archival inks, is it is actually an oil-based ink. And in some cases, it actually kind of floats to the top, so you can still see some of that black coming through. I'm also, just to sharpen up that image again, going in with a darker green, just adding in sort of little scribbly lines, not being too careful about what I'm doing, just like the original stamped image, just to add a little bit of shading to those leaves. If you saw the original image, you saw they all had the black loop in the middle, so I'm replacing that with the green instead of having the black on it. And I'm quite glad I resisted the urge to use the black. Finally, well not finally, but with the mark making, I'm just going in with a white Posca paint pen and just adding some white in the background. Because as you know, I'm a terror for painting everything and making it really busy. So just adding in those little pops of white, I think really sort of brought the background to life. Now at this stage, I loved this just as it was, and I was thinking, what am I going to do with it? But I was looking at my Collage Collective book and I had these colourful images of a torso. So I thought I would cut one of those out and put it onto the page as a focal point. And again, sort of really bring in that foreground, background division. So I'm just going in, fussy cutting around it. I'm cutting out in between the arms as well, which I find really important. It frustrates me when I see things like this and I don't see this white space in between cut out so you can see the background. It just looks wrong to me. So I'm sticking it into my book, but I found that while the colours are exactly the same colours I've used on here, because it's printed, it just loses that sharpness of colour. So I'm just going back in with the paints and matching them up. And that's one of the things I really do like about using the Dina Wakley Collage Collective, because she uses her own paints, as you would, because it's so great, in her artwork. When you come to use it on this Collage Collective, you can go, oh, I've got those colours, and you can just match them up and they match perfectly. So you can just sort of brighten things up. And you can see the difference between the original collage that I stuck down and just putting just the smallest amount of paint over the top, really. Excuse me. So I'm just now going in with one of the tissue papers, one of the quote tissue papers, again from Dina Wakley, to stick down, and this one was "You are sensitive and that's okay." I wish now that I'd stuck it on the other page, because everything interesting was happening on the right hand page, but it worked out okay. Now one thing I have found that the gloss gel medium is really good for, and you can see that in the top, is it's fantastic for making those collage images actually go really translucent. The matte gel medium sometimes makes it still have a white halo or make it not quite look like it's a tissue. The gloss really blends it in. So this is the final page. It was so bright and cheerful and easy to do, and using the stamps to do the mark making was a huge revelation and relief, and something that I hope people who struggle doing mark making finds a lot easier to do. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye for now.